Hey, everyone. So I was trying to do a few things during the countdown, and then I wasn't sure what would happen once the countdown ended, but it went to this scene, which is great. It's exactly what I was supposed to do. But I was trying to like change things while things were happening. And so I'm gonna hit this button and I think I'm just back. Okay, everything's fine. I'm fine, you're fine. But there was a moment there that I wasn't quite sure where I was at in all the senses of the word. Hey, good afternoon, everyone, or evening if you are more east from me by significant amounts of miles. Welcome to Perspective Shift with me, your host, Colby Martin. That's right, my middle name is Brenneman. How many of you had that on your bingo card? Today I'm going to be talking about all those names that you call me. And not really you specifically. Well, I'm guessing if you're watching this, odds are you're not the originators of these names. But actually, every once in a while, some of those folk do show up. So if you're here, by the way, you're totally welcome here. And you might be intrigued by what I have to say today. Okay, I'm gonna get going here in just a couple seconds. I just wanted to quickly say that if you are watching this on the Facebooks and you want to, go ahead and click like on my page. Totally up to you, but it does help the communique flow a little more naturally. And if you're watching this on YouTube, whether now live or later, just ding that subscribe button. And I don't know, why would you? What is the win for you? That's an excellent question. I don't know. I subscribe to channels that I like. I'm not always entirely sure why. I just think, oh, I like your content. I'd like to know maybe when you do some new stuff, subscribe. So there, if that fits you, then feel free to do that as well. Okay, let's get into this. Welcome to Perspective Shift. Who do we have in the house so far? We have a very broad house. We've got UK Junior representing, it's late in the United Kingdom. We've got Finland in the house. Oh, wait, no, wait, Alex. You were saying hello to Finland. Okay, that's because Hanu's here. What's up, Hanu? And Hanu is representing the land of the Finns. And Alex is also, yes, UK. That makes more sense. My parents were in the spirit of the Lord's day when they named you Brenneman. Thank you, Corey. You're not wrong. It was a very inspired name. Glad you're with us here. What's up, John? John's here. Love when you're here, John. Glad to have you. We've got Victor Diaz in the house. Hey, Victor. It's good to have you. I don't know that I've seen you on a live show before, but it's good to have you. What else? Who else we got? I'll scroll back up. This is the thing, is I was so trying to figure out what was happening at the beginning of the show that I missed all of this. So hi, friends. Hi, good to see you, Karen. Hello, Melanie. Oh, I'm so glad you appreciated the posts from this last week that I'm going to be talking about here in a minute today. Here on the show. And man, my computer fans are screaming at me right now. So I apologize if in the background you hear a faint I normally can keep those under control a bit, but today they are angry. Let's see if I click here using significant energy, display brightness. Well, I'll turn the display brightness down. I don't need you to be as intense. Anyway, I don't know why I'm sharing all that with you. We got Minneapolis in the house. Hello, Mercy. We've got Brooke coming at us again from London. Brooke, so glad that you are here. I don't know who else I've said hi to or who I've missed. Christine. Okay, let's get into this. Let's do this here. We got Floyd in the house. Hi, Floyd. So glad you're here with me as well, representing Tejas. We got Ventura, California, just a bit up the road from me. Hi, Connie. Glad you're here. Okay, so if you're new to these parts, and by these parts I mean this live show thing that I do on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Pacific, where I begin is I begin with my weekly article that I sent out, and you can see that kind of scrolling along the bottom there. I write on the platform Substack, which, fun fact, a couple weeks ago somebody's like, oh, I thought Substack was just where all the disgraced far-right journalists went. Like, no, that's not real. I get that there's some story out there that involves that, but no, Substack is just sort of a neutral platform that allows people like myself. Nadia Bolter-Weber writes on Substack. Sarah Bessie writes on Substack. Lots of others write on Substack. It's just a nice neutral. It's kind of like Medium, but I like it better, and it allows me to do these free newsletters where you can easily go to that URL on the bottom, put your email address in, and then boom, it just drops into your inbox every time I push one out. You like how I described to you what a newsletter, an email newsletter is in the event you didn't already know? I know, you're welcome. This is why you tune in, for free, helpful tips like that. Anyway, so I write this article called Perspective Shift, this newsletter. And I typically write about, I don't know, I describe it as the Venn diagram of religion, spirituality, and psychology. Those are kind of the things that rev my motor and that I enjoy writing about. And then I started using this platform here, actually called Ecamm Live, by the way. Shout out to @Ecamm Network. Started using this platform Ecamm Live to do these live streams, which, if you can see in my description below, I've got a link if you are curious about that platform. You can check that out. And it's just been a great way to build new connections and new friends with some of the aforementioned folk that I see almost every Wednesday, like James and Phil Spencer and Odette, 5 p.m. in Puerto Rico, and Susan and Mercy. Anyway, it's so fun to do this. And so here's how I like to start. I usually like to start by throwing up. It's fine. We're fine. By putting on the screen a little iMac. What am I doing? I'm like, live video interrupted. Paused? I don't know why I did that. That's weird. Not sure why it's paused. Hope it comes back. And yes, I think it did pause while I was talking about Ecamm. LOL. This is great. Yes, people are having problems with the feed. I don't know if I'm back. Cool, everybody. Not sure what that's about. Sorry, everyone. Let me know if it ever comes back. I don't think I'm back yet. I think it's still frozen. This is really frustrating. They did not like the shout out. Oh, that's great. That's great. I don't know if it's going to come back. I'm not sure what happened. I am not sure what happened. Checking the bandwidth. Oh, maybe it's because my internet tanked. Well, that's fun. Am I back? They did not like the shout out. Oh, that's great. Looks like I'm back. Okay, looks like I'm back. Yes, really fun timing while I was plugging the platform that I do the live streaming with. Then it just sort of stopped. And I think it's just been intermittently bringing me back. I think my best guess is that my internet bandwidth just absolutely plummeted. I'm getting like maybe 1 meg per second, and I need at least like 5 for this. Yeah, I see you're saying that I'm back, and I'm really grateful. Thank you, because I didn't know. I was just speaking into the void, into the unknown. And so thank you for telling me that I'm back now. It looks like I'm back on YouTube as well. Okay, well, that happened, and I'm fine, and you're fine. As I like to say, when you're live, everything's jive. I don't know what it means, but I say it. Okay, thank you, Colton. I'm back like Jesus on the horse of death, ready to send all the heathens to fiery pits. That's exactly the energy I'm feeling in this moment. Yes, okay, Victor's like, we got the plug on Ecamm. I don't know that we're going to use it now because it turns out it freezes. I don't think it was Ecamm. I think it was my internet. I think there's just a lot of strain on the system at the moment. Yes, thank you for the frozen. Floyd says video's fuzzy, but audio's okay. Yeah, I'm hoping that eventually something happens on my end and suddenly I have internet bandwidth. You know what? I'm just gonna do the show and we'll see what happens and whatever. Okay, here's what we're doing today. We're gonna talk about this article that I wrote and put out to you this morning, in which I reflected on a little thing I did last week on my Instagram and I think also my Facebook as well. And I'll just get into it and then we'll talk about it. And like I say every week when the stream works, stream works makes the dream work. I don't think that's real. Feel free to be commenting and asking questions because I can see I was watching all your comments through like it's frozen. Is it lagging for anybody else? We lost you. And I'm like, I know. I'm here. I see you, but you don't see me. Yes, feel free to comment and ask questions. And I'm going to pause periodically throughout the sharing of this article to engage with y'all. Corey, the Eevees took over YouTube to block me. I kind of feel like that's true. All right, we've got some help on YouTube. If you change the settings or quality, it should help. Yeah, I do apologize. Normally, I see my bandwidth is now going back up to normal levels. Usually I can stream in 1080p pretty successfully. I'm now back up to anyway, it should be fine now. Okay, let's jump into this. Oh, thanks, Colton. Colton says, I watched a video you did with this super sad guy. I guess he was some sort of conservative Christian or something. Anyway, you crushed it. Thank you. It's really been interesting, Colton, to watch people's response to, and I don't know if you're referring to the conversation I had with Owen on the Anchored North videos or with Sean on Sean McDowell's channel. But they provide some, it's like a Rorschach. Am I saying that right? It's like a Rorschach test where people see what they want to see. Like I have received, so let's just take, I'll get to this here in a minute. I've received comments and feedback from people that have watched those conversations that I had. And the people that maybe are generally favorable or predisposed towards me and or my thinking maybe before even watching the video or the conversation. Yes, Rorschach, thank you. That's a good helpful way to think of it. Their response is this: wow, Colby, you looked so calm and centered and grounded and kind and compassionate and warm and open, whereas the other guy just looked all closed and tight and arrogant and just cold. And then you go and read like the comment section, which are 95% sort of predisposed towards the more conservative evangelical side. And it is just a complete inversion of perception. So I appear cold and arrogant and closed off. And the other person, whether it's Owen or Sean, appears warm and kind and open and loving. And it's fascinating. We see what we want to see. We notice what we are predisposed to notice. If you think I'm already sort of a sketchy, false Christian, then you're going to read my body language and you're going to read my tone and you're going to read my face as being a certain thing. And it's probably going to be somewhat negative. And if you are in the camp where you're like, no, actually, I kind of jive with this whole progressive idea of Christianity. And I think the Bible is not a tool that accurately justifies discrimination of those who identify LGBTQ. And I think Colby seems to be a pretty generalized, then you're going to read my body language as charitable and open and maybe even humble and kind. I can't wrap my mind around how diametrically opposed the reactions has been to both those conversations. It's really, really fascinating. Really fascinating. Colton, you're on fire today. The comments of that video made me pray prayer. Why have you forsaken us, prayer? Yes. um, yes. Victor, I loved those comments where people were just, because I was wearing black, they're like, "Ooh, the black guy. The black guy's the guy in black's evil." I know. Yes, this is an accurate representation of the comment section. Nailed it. And I know you know that well. So anyway, yeah, that happened. And as a result of those videos that I've mentioned, I have over the last few months received a fresh wave of insults and comments. I've been getting these sorts of names called at me for years for other videos that I have on YouTube and just the books that I write and the sermons that I preach. So pretty normal to just have a steady diet of heretic and false prophet and wolf in sheep's clothing. But good gravy, like since these videos have gone online, it has been like it's been a lot. It's been a lot. I've had to resort to creating auto response triggered messages for my Instagram and my Facebook, so that if anybody ever messages me, they just instantly is like, "Hey, thanks for messaging me. I read everything that gets sent, but I don't get a chance to respond to everything. So thanks for understanding." And yet Facebook and Instagram sends that to everybody. So even my close friends who I message with often have to deal with these auto responses from me. But anyway, all right, so let's jump in. I don't know who Father John Misty is, but I can wager a guess. Dressed in all black with the giant beard. It was a look, and I'm not there anymore. I think it's the right choice. Okay, let me get into this. So here has been. Well, let me just share with it, and then I'll pause periodically. And if you have, I'd love to hear your thoughts on some of these names, and I'd love to hear if you have any questions, or if you want to engage about any of this stuff. We'll just sort of jump into it together. So let's get into this. And I start like this. I don't necessarily consider myself to have all that thick of skin. I sometimes wish I had thicker skin than I did. I know it's only supposed to be sticks and stones, but the words of other people, when they're hurled without care or compassion, they harness the potential for harm no matter how you shake it. What people think and what people say about me and to me, it matters more than I wish it did. Just a little vulnerability there for you. Like I wish this stuff didn't matter as much as it does, but it does. And yet at the same time, also, I have to name what's real for myself and try to my best to be honest with you. Over the past decade or so, since I've been doing this kind of work publicly, I've noticed there's been a variety of responses to different types of insults that come my way. Sometimes, and I would say this was most times, really, and I don't think I'm just sort of BSing myself here. I think this is true, that most times, that the names that people use to talk about me or describe me or call me things, they don't really land with much of an emotional weight. They really don't. They really don't. Most of the time, these sorts of names and insults, like when they come my way, I can quickly recognize you're not really talking to me. You don't even know me. So this doesn't have anything to do with me. You're speaking at some other pain that you have or some other person that made you angry or insecure, and I'm just the person in front of you that gets to receive your blast of insecurity. And so that's fine. Like this isn't really about me. But then sometimes they do land with an emotional weight. They hurt. And then there was a guy last week on one of the videos on the YouTubes that called me foppish, and I didn't know what foppish meant, so I had to go look it up. And foppish is someone who's concerned with one's clothes and appearance in an affected and excessive way, typically used of a man. And here's Ben Mordecai. And I don't know if you can read that because it's so tiny, but Ben Mordecai wrote, Colby appears to have built his entire ministry. Impressive. You can watch one video and look at my website and know 20 years of my ministry. I built my entire ministry on superficiality. a foppish appearance. So good. With an absurd number of headshots and portraits of himself covering his website. And he's not wrong. I did I did go back and look at that and be like, good Lord, when you redesigned your website like a year and a half ago, I was just super excited. I got a lot of new headshots, and I had never had like professional looking photos, and I was excited about it. And Ben, yeah, it's a lot. Maybe I do need to cut back on some of that. It's just a lot of my face. Good Lord. Anyways, and I have a demeanor that communicates an intellectual humility that he actually lacks. So I communicate intellectual humility, but I actually lack that. I do wonder, Ben Mordecai, do I have non-intellectual humility? So is it that I have some humility, but it's just not intellectual? Or do I have intellect, but I'm not humble about it? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Point was, he called me foppish, and I thought that was great. Yeah, you're probably right about that. Foppish. So anyway, Chris says, I wish I was foppish. I don't know. Do you, Chris? You're welcome. You're welcome to put some energy into being more foppish. But I'm trying to go the opposite way. I'm trying to care less. But Enneagram type 3, man, the stuff just comes, unfortunately, naturally to us. Oh, thanks, Alex. She does affirm, yes, your face is all over the place. It does kind of stand out. But at least it's nice to look at. Okay, so I guess that's the win there. Thanks for that. Oh, but then James says I'm not foppish. Well, hey, look, I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm a semi-faux fop, perhaps. I know, Karen. It's a fun word. Fun to say, fun to be, fun to own. I'm going to take it. No, Zach, I didn't know what it was either. I had to look it up. So the definition, just to scroll back up, of foppish is concerned with one's clothes and appearance in an affected and excessive way, typically used of a man. And I acknowledged, yeah, I think I am sometimes a bit foppish. A bit foppish. Okay, moving on here. So last week on my social media, I ran this series that I was calling To Be Clear. And the point of the series was to highlight some of the various names and the insults that get thrown my way, really by conservative / evangelical Christians. So like the top of this article, when it's like the names that you call me, the second person there, I'm referring to those who are on the more conservative evangelical end of the spectrum. What I've learned over the years is that the people who call me these names, call me these things, I don't think they totally understand or get or can appreciate that their words don't really land with me the way that they might wish they would. Over the years, I've picked up this skill set. I've worked at this capacity to deploy this kind of Aikido-esque maneuver. Aikido being this type of jujitsu where you take the force of your opponent's blows and you kind of redirect it back at them in a self-defensive way, so they end up like hurting themselves with their own energy, if you will. So I take this and I employ this jujitsu maneuver when people call me things like heretic and false prophet. So they'll send their negative energy my way, and then I receive it, and then I redirect it back at them, and I end up being unharmed in the process. And I think that, like I said a minute ago, that generally is the case. I generally am not harmed by the multitude of times by which I'm called heretic and false prophet and wolf in sheep's clothing, and you're not a real Christian. Okay, yeah, fine. Call me that. It's fine. It really doesn't affect me. So I can read through literally hundreds of comments like this, and it just doesn't bother me until it does. And this is something last week when I was working on this series that I'm like, oh, okay, no, I have limits. It turns out I'm human. Turns out I have feelers. And there are some insults that people can call me. There are some names that people can describe me as that does hit me in the feels. But I'll get to that in a minute here. So here is my attempt to kind of compile the series that I did last week that some of you I know followed along with and interacted with, and it was super fun. Thank you so much for partaking in that. Enough foppery. Oh, we've got another type 3 in the house, Karen. Look, it's Mank Art. Type 3. We're awesome. We're a lot. And we're kind of gross, but we're also awesome. Zach, here's a great question. How long did it take to develop that verbal judo, that Aikido skill until you were able to withstand it like you do? I love that question, Zach. Okay. Here's how I'll respond to that. I would say, if I were to just put a timestamp on it, I would say it took about 2 to 3 years of kind of regularly experiencing those sort of name calling, for lack of a better term, and then noticing a shift from taking it real personal and being offended by it and getting defensive about it. I'm not a false prophet. I'm not a heretic. I'd say about 2 to 3 years is the time in which I can sort of be like, oh, I've grown. I've transformed in that area. Like I don't get defensive as much as anymore. I don't take offense. It doesn't really bother me anymore. And I'd say there's about 2 to 3 years as far as the time. But then the second thing I'd say about that is within those 2 or 3 years, it was sort of an irregular experience. So now it's a bit more frequent and a bit more regular, and just kind of a general part of my life. In fact, even look at this, y'all. Even this morning, this newsletter that I sent out on my Substack page, let's see if I can find this. Somebody named Lizzie, and yes, y'all, if you send me this stuff, I'm going to call out your name. Lizzie says this. Here, I'll take a little screenshot of it. This is fun. So this stuff comes every day, every day. So here's a little comment from Lizzie. You are a complete heretic, and I just wanted to applaud Lizzie. Like, y'all, I have reached. You know how the Apostle Paul says, "I have not yet attained. I have not reached completion. I have not." I'm a complete heretic, according to Lizzie. I've achieved it, y'all. I'm none of this partial heretic bullcrap. Complete. And then she's like, FYI, Romans 1:26 is beyond clear. Shameful. It's also shameful, Lizzie, that you would think that I've never considered what Romans 1:26 and 27 means. But that's a different topic for a different day. Point being is, Zach, to answer your question, it was about 2 to 3 years of sort of irregular interaction with these sort of comments, to where I noticed that, I feel differently about it now. And now, but it was pretty irregular. I think if it would have been like the consistency and regularity and frequency by which I get it now, that might have been compressed. And, as I spent intentional energy to say, I cannot let this stuff get to me. If I let this stuff get to me, it will completely derail the work that I'm here to do. It will, a big part of it was, Zach, is when I was writing UnClobber, my first book, I could tell about halfway through the writing process that I was trying to write for my critics. What I mean by that is I was trying to write in such a way where I could create this airtight defense, and I could imagine every attack that might come, and I would meet it off at the head, and it ended up being just crap writing. Like, it was horribly boring and verbose and uninteresting. And I was talking to a friend who's written a ton of books, and he said, you can't write that way. You can't write for your critics. Your critics, chances are you'll never sway them anyway. You have to write the book that you want to read, and you have to know who your audience that you're writing to and write for them. And I wasn't writing this book for critics, for people that are convinced that I'm a heretic. It's not who the book is for. So I had to get that out of my head. Anyway, so about 2 to 3 years, and now I can, this stuff comes all the time, and it's like, that's fine. Honestly, and a big part of it is, I was you X number of years ago. I was you person on the interwebs. Well, there wasn't the interwebs back when I was at the height of my oversaved days, but I was the guy who was quick to call out false prophets and all that. So I understand that. And as Thich Nhat Hanh says, understanding leads to compassion, and compassion leads to love. When I can understand why people do what they do, that leads to a place of, I have compassion for you, and now I can love you. Like, I get it. It's all good. It's all good, and it's not. Both and, but okay. Let's keep going here. So, here is the series. Here is the series. that I did last week. I'll just go through them here real quick, and it's not the full entry I put here on my article. You can go check out each of the fuller entries on my Instagram and or Facebook page. So let's start with heretic. To be clear, when you call me a heretic, y'all, when you call me a heretic, I don't entirely disagree with you. Fine. Like, yeah, you're not totally wrong, because technically a heretic is someone who opposes the official or the popular opinion. And specifically in a religious context, that means you oppose official church teachings. But here's the thing. Some of the, quote, official church teachings are worth opposing. They really are. So, yeah, I accept your label of heretic. It's true. I am a heretic against some of the official church teachings. I'm opposing those. I'm outside of that, 100%. Many of your beliefs, dear evangelical Christian, deserve my opposition. They really do. And then I say, I hope I'm not always a heretic for what it's worth. I hope that one day the official or the popular opinion will be more, as I would suggest it, in line with the person of Jesus. And then I could take a break from all this heresy. Like it's not a position I want to have forever, but I understand that for now, it actually is a pretty apropos word. So I receive it. But that day's not yet. And so until then, I'll be over here in my corner with others, many of you watching this, who identify as a progressive Christian of some sort, and who also are not content to just let some of these official and popular church teachings and beliefs go unopposed. So I'm all good with that. Call me a heretic. You're not entirely wrong. All right, skip that. Good Lord. There's my face again, Alex. What about false prophet? Okay, to be clear, when you call me a false prophet, and you can just substitute teacher for prophet if you want, because I also get a lot of that, false teacher. I don't entirely disagree with you. A prophet, properly understood, is someone who speaks on behalf of God, or a God, or for the gods. And in this particular case, you're in my experience here, dear evangelical Christian, since I know a bit about your God, because keep in mind, I was you for a long time, and I was you well. I was a well version of you. I knew well the evangelical doctrine and theology and all of that. I knew that God well, which makes it sometimes, again, just comical. The number of people whose response to me moving towards a more progressive end of Christianity is, well, you just never knew God then. You never knew Jesus. You didn't know your Bible. Like, well, I can understand that your worldview leads you to that conclusion. Like on some level that makes sense, because you have been sold this idea that your understanding of the Bible and your sort of evangelical heritage is so clear and obvious that any deviation from that is just indicative of the fact, like what Lizzie said, you've never read Romans 1:26-27 then. It's so clear. So clearly if you have left evangelical Christianity, it's because you just never understood. You never knew God. You never understood Jesus. You never read the Bible. Yeah. Okay. That's actually not true. So anyway, I know your God, evangelical. I know your God. And as a result, I can safely say that, yeah, when it comes to your God, I'm a really crappy prophet. I am. I'm a really bad prophet for speaking for your God. I don't speak on behalf of your God well at all. With regards to your God, I am a false prophet. That's correct. Since I know that your God plays favoritism and blesses some while cursing others, since I know that your God is totally cool with some people enjoying eternal bliss while others, just because they don't have the beliefs inside their head that you think they need to have, will burn forever. Because I know that your God is of the opinion that being gay is an abomination, then yeah, I'm totally a false prophet for that God. You are spot on. I do not teach that God well. I am false. I am false. So it's important to me, or it's import, as I mistyped there. It's import that I want you to know that I know that I'm a very bad, very false prophet for your God. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. So call me a false prophet. It's actually pretty accurate as it relates to your God. Nice. Thanks, Angelo. You're in good company as a heretic. I agree. There's a lot of us good heretics out there. Oh, and Connie adds Martin Luther also was a great heretic. Take a break from the heresy. Yeah, one day, Alex, one day I will. Junior asks, have you ever considered and contemplated what if this progressive stance I hold dear to now is all wrong? Yes. And I feel like you and I have communicated on that before, but maybe not. Maybe you've missed when I've talked about that. That's something that I'm not sure why that isn't being heard when I say it. But when I talk about holding my beliefs loosely, I mean it. I mean it. And I think what often, my guess is what happens is those on the more conservative evangelical end of the spectrum, it's like their beliefs are this Jenga tower and everything's got to be secured and tightened and locked down. And then you see someone like me sort of dismantle it and take it apart. And maybe some pieces I toss out completely. Other pieces I might sort of turn and put it on in a different way. But really, it's not even the same foundation. Really, it's just like all the pieces are just kind of in a pile over here. And I'm okay with that. Like, it's a really good pile. It's a pile of really beautiful things that leads to really beautiful fruit. But the assumption on the conservative evangelical end is that I've just built up a new thing that I am just as now a fundamentalist about. And so the question comes like, well, would you ever consider that you're wrong, since you're asking us to consider that we're wrong? Yes, this is what I'm saying to you. Is I'm saying that my assumption is that 5 years from now, I will think and feel things differently than I do now. This is my assumption. The only constant is change. Like, we are constantly moving and changing and moving and changing. I almost said and growing. That's not inevitable. We're always moving and changing. The question is, how are we stewarding that? How are we handling that? So yes, 100%. Not only have I considered and contemplated, what if this progressive stance I hold to now is all wrong? I'm also fully assuming that many of the things I think are wrong, even though I would argue that that is a way harder to assess than we are keen to admit. Now, what I don't think, to be fair, what I don't anticipate ever doing is reverting back to a very primitive idea in which there is somehow a God that is maneuvering humans like pieces on a chessboard, and that God has reserved eternal salvation for some and eternal damnation for others, and that God has only communicated to humanity through this one very narrow text known as the Bible and this one very limited interpretation of it. And specifically as it relates to some of my progressive convictions, like the affirmation of those who identify lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual, and queer. Like, I am not going backwards on that. That's like, no, we know that the earth is not flat. So even though my cosmology of how the planets hang in the stars might change and grow and adapt and evolve over time, I am not going back to a flat earther. That's 100% not on the table. 100%. It's okay Junior, it's okay to say, I might not be right about these things, while also saying, but the thing I used to believe, I'm comfortable saying is not grounded in truth, and I will not ever believe again. Okay, I hope that made sense. All right, checking in with some of the comments here. Sometimes I talk so long and I forget to look at the comments. Like when Odette says, OMG, that's so true. I don't know what you're referring to anymore. Sorry. I missed it. Yes, Brad Jerzak, Connie, is a great thinker, great writer. Yen Tan, I think Yen's a new joiner of the Wednesday afternoon. We can either choose what we want to believe about God or let God decide how he wants to be believed. I disagree, actually, with you. I don't think that's an either or. I don't think that you either just, how did you describe it? Let God decide how he wants to be believed. I'm not sure how that would even be a thing, Yen. Like, what does it look like to just let God decide how he wants to be believed? My assumption is that you would finish that maybe by saying the Bible, but then that spins off a whole myriad of other questions of whose interpretation of the Bible, and what do we do with all the contradictions, and what do we do with the myriad ways. So it's not just as simple as you either let God describe how God wants to be, or you choose what you want to believe about God. Like, those two options, neither one of them for me are grounded in anything resembling reality. So I actually completely disagree with you, but thanks for sharing. What do we got here? Victor says, the Lizzies of Christianity really don't believe what they believe, or I suspect rarely ever truly live act on it, if ever, in sharing their faith with sinners destined to hell, with urgency for their souls. All those exclamation points. Yeah, I would agree. Colton says, I'm a Marxist, evangelical, progressive Pentecostal on staff at a Hillsong church. What type of heretic is that? I would imagine a very tired one. I would imagine tired, Colton. You're a tired heretic. That sounds exhausting to me. Yeah, Alex says, I always thought that my belief system was a puzzle, but then when one part refused to fit, sexuality, I started trying to change the picture to fit in it, and I ended up changing the whole frame. I like that metaphor a lot, Alex. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing. All right, let me move on from, we've done heretic, we've done false. These are great questions. Now let's talk about wolf in sheep's clothing. To be clear, when you call me a wolf in sheep's clothing, I don't entirely disagree with you. I don't. It's just, I would suggest that your concern is a bit misplaced. I'm not sneaking through the gates to prey on unsuspecting sheep, to lead them off into some scary destination. The sheep are not the ones who should be afraid of me. I'm sneaking in, and to be fair, I'm not actually sneaking in. I'm pretty damn loud and obvious. Here I am. I'm not doing a great job sneaking, but I'm coming to take on the shepherd, not the sheep. Sheep don't have anything to fear from me, but the shepherds, that's the ones I'm after. Sheep are at the mercy of their shepherd, you see. Sheep eat when their shepherd says eat. Sheep go wherever the shepherd tells them to go. Sheep believe the doctrines and the ideas that the shepherd teaches them. And I kind of slipped out of the metaphor there. And there's a lot of really bad evangelical scented shepherds out there. There's a lot of bad evangelical shepherds out there. You bet your ass that I'll be using my voice and my platform and my life's mission and work to liberate those sheep from those harmful ideas. Yep. That's what I do, or one of the things that I do. So yes, I'm a wolf. And if dressing a bit like a sheep gets me closer to the shepherd so that I can expose their, okay, let's be honest, pronoun, so I can expose his. We're talking about, by and large, just men, preachers and teachers here. So if I can get close to expose their bad ideas, then yeah, bring on the wool. Dress me. I'm a wolf. Okay, now, let me pause here because I had a great conversation on Instagram with somebody about this, because they're like, I feel like I get what you're saying, but like, why are you really wanting to attack? Is that really what you're saying, is you want to attack and go after the shepherds? Because my whole shtick, it's not a shtick, it's a real deep held belief. My whole shtick is that everyone's a love child of God. And this includes the smelly evangelical shepherds. So I admit that I was being a bit fast and loose and playful. I was being playful with the metaphor here. I was being playful with the sheep and the wolf and the shepherd metaphor. No, I'm not actually trying to attack anyone. I try not to judge people. I try to separate people's identity, love child of God, from their ideas and their beliefs. Like, I'll judge the crap out of that all day long and expect others to judge my ideas as well. And let's just talk about it. Let's talk about our ideas and beliefs. But no, I'm not actually trying to hurt anyone. I don't think these are bad people by and large. So yes, I was being a little bit loose and playful with the metaphor there. The point here, though, is that I am very much interested in, and really maybe a better way to say it is this. Here's maybe a better way to say it, because you could look at the two aforementioned YouTube conversations where I had with Owen and then with Sean. And honestly, I watched those back and I'm like, I really didn't do a great job articulating things. I really didn't do a great job sort of poking at their ideas and their beliefs. Now, asterisk, that was not the point of the video. So, especially the 3-part series with Owen, the point of the video was not to kind of go at, it wasn't a debate. And yet everything about our culture and our mindset and even the way the video is framed, we feel like it should be a debate. And so we watch it as though it should be and we judge it as though it should be. And so my point really wasn't in that a lot to try to make gotcha points or try to really poke at Owen. And even with Sean, I watch it, I'm like, I'm not always super clear with my words. I know that. This is no big shock. This is no big surprise to me. It's just that, and I said this to my friend the other day, it's just that sometimes I feel like those sorts of conversations where I'm talking with real conservative, evangelically grounded people who see things in very sort of black and white, right and wrong. It's almost like I'm an English teacher discussing a problem with a math teacher. And there's a problem in front of us, and the math teacher is just like, well, all we got to do is figure out the equation, and then we'll get the answer. And the English teacher is like, okay, but maybe within the answer, there's a number of different ways to say it. Maybe we can pull out our thesaurus and find a different way to say, or maybe even looking at the problem itself, we got to maybe try to understand who wrote the problem and why did they write the problem? What was the context of which the problem was written? And were they trying to say anything with the problem? So it's like part English, part philosophy. Having a conversation with a math-minded person can get really frustrating, where one side feels like I just want clarity. And the other side's like, I'm giving you clarity. It's just my version of what clarity means is going to look and feel and sound different than yours. So anyway, what's my point? Oh, my point is, even with the whole going after the shepherd that I was being playful with in this wolf in sheep's clothing thing, I'm really not going after, I'm really not even going after as much as I am trying to cast a more compelling vision for what the pastures over here could look like. So it's less for me about really trying to go, less, I don't know. Maybe I try to do both. I'm processing in real time here with you. I think I try to do a little bit of both. Part of it is like go after the bad ideas of the shepherds. And part of it, and maybe this is more what I try to just do with my life, like how I live my life and maybe how I build and some of the work that I do is, look at this really green grass over here. It's lush. It's open. There actually isn't as many fences that are going to make you all feel locked in. It's actually really nice out here. As soon as you're ready to leave that pen over there, where you're weighed down with all these, this baggage, this shame. As soon as you're ready to leave that, there's some really good grass to munch out here. So yeah, people call me wolf in sheep's clothing, and I know what they mean by that. And there's a sense in which I don't entirely disagree, but look, there's some really bad shepherds out there. Really bad shepherds out there. And if I can save just one sheep, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Oh, good. Alex liked the analogy with the math and English teacher. Yeah, I thought that was a helpful way to think about it too. Thank you, Yen Tan. Yen says, as a conservative, I'm sorry to hear the unjust insults and disrespect to you. Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think a lot of times people, especially on the internet, they just don't stop and think that I might ever actually see it. Like sometimes I will go on those YouTube comment sections and I'll respond to somebody who said something particularly just unkind. And I'll just respond with, hey there, did you stop and think about how these words would make me feel? And if you did, I wonder what came up for you in that. And I've done that multiple times. Only one person's ever come back and responded, which part of that is just the platform of YouTube doesn't let you anymore, which is a good thing. Doesn't let you anymore like tag people in the comments until it gets nested a few layers deep. And so having conversations in the comment section is actually really complicated because it requires the people of their own volition go back and look for it. But one person ever responded to me when I asked them that. Hey, did you consider how this would make me feel? And like, what did you think about that? They responded back with, yeah, you know what, you're right. I was unnecessarily harsh and I apologize. Here's what I was trying to point out. And we had this really nice exchange. So I think a lot of times people just, they vent off and they don't think about their words and they don't think about the human, me, on the other side, which I'll get to here in a minute. All right, let's check them back in here. Junior says, by that same logic, I know for sure there are a great many bad shepherds of the progressive stock. Thanks for sharing. Tired Heretic. Yeah, that's a good title. Yen says, thanks for your response. Thanks, Yen. I appreciate it. I appreciate you being here. All right, scrolling. No, I'm definitely not a 7. I don't know if you're talking to me or somebody else, but I am not a 7. I am textbook 3. Oh yeah, Junior's coming at my shtick about all love children of God. Junior says that it's not true. According to Scripture, we're all God's creation. We aren't all God's children. And yeah, you and I just differ on that. You and I differ on that, on what it means to be a love child of God and how the Bible talks about it. So your point is received and we disagree. And by the way, if you haven't been a part of one of my shows before, I'll often put comments on the screen without having read them first. It's not always the best move, but I do it anyway. So Colton says, by children of God here specifically means being born again in this context, not being children of God in general. Otherwise, no one before Jesus' ministry could be considered children of God. Yeah, that's an interesting thought, Colton. That's an interesting thought too. Thanks for sharing. He said grass. Yeah, Colton. They don't like my feelings. They don't like when I share my feelings. They don't like when I admit that feelings make a significant impact on the things that I think. And what's really true is that it does for them too. They just don't realize it, or they're too afraid to name it. Like psychology research has shown us that most of the time this is what's true. We feel something and then we come up with the ideas to rationalize it. Rarely is it ever the other way around, where we come to a concrete belief up here and then that develops feelings. No, we're all guided by our feelings. But yeah, the more conservative evangelical crowd does not like feelings. They don't like when I share mine, and they don't care when they hurt them either. It's true. All right, so let's go into the fourth name. More faces of me. It's going to happen. All right, so then people call me not a Christian all the time. You're not a real Christian. You're not actually a Christian. Stop calling yourself a Christian. To be clear, when you call me, quote, not a Christian, I don't entirely disagree with you. Not because I don't identify as a Christian, I do. And not because I don't believe that I am a Christian. I am a Christian. Sorry. I'll let you know if and when that changes. But because I actually know that what you mean, I know this can sound patronizing, and I'm kind of sorry for it, but what you actually mean when you're saying that I'm not a Christian is you're actually just saying that I'm not an evangelical Christian. That's really what you mean, even though those aren't the words that you're using. That's really what you're saying to me, is that I'm not an evangelical Christian. You have a very narrow and limited view on what Christianity is. Very Larry, a limited and narrow. Larry boy. You think a Christian is Larry boy, but you're not wrong. Larry boy. Okay. And I used to think that way too. Very narrow view of who a Christian was and what it meant to be a Christian. And to be fair, in your narrow view of what a Christian is, you're right. I don't qualify. But that's not the whole picture. This is what's so frustrating for many of us who are post-evangelical. It's not the whole picture. You have a very narrow view of what it means to be a Christian. And yes, I don't fit inside of that, but table's a whole lot bigger, brah. And I only say brah because most of the time it's young dudes that come at me. So yes, the reality is I don't fit the parameters. I don't check all the boxes. I don't qualify to be an evangelical. This is entirely accurate. And I'm fine with that. I am good with that. I've been there. I've done that. Like, nah, I'm good. That's why I now identify as post-evangelical. Not so much ex-evangelical, though I totally get that sentiment and I get how that has really found home for a lot of people. But for me, it's less about being ex something, which feels more like a side, like a lateral movement, like not that anymore. And for me, it's more about I've moved past it. I've moved beyond it. You know, like I've pushed the edges of evangelical Christianity. I'm like Jim Carrey going through the sky in the Truman Show, puncturing the edges of it, being like, there's a whole other world out here, people. Holy crap. There's a whole other world out here. The brand of Christianity that passes for evangelicalism these days, those who are anti-LGBTQ in their theology, those who believe that women are less than men, which, by the way, quick side rant. In one of the videos, I think it was with Sean, I referenced this idea, the absurdity of thinking that men are 51% and women are 49%. And people, and when I say things like this, believe women are less than men, it's frustrating to me that folks get caught up on that by saying, we don't believe that. We don't believe that men are 51% and women are 49%. We don't stop misrepresenting us. We don't believe that. And yet, I would bet my mortgage on it. I don't have a mortgage. It's a win-win bet for me. I would bet my monthly rent on it that they would subscribe to the idea that in a marriage, if there is a disagreement on something significant, that the man, as, quote, the biblical head of the household, gets the final say. How is that not just another way to say 51%, 49%? I get it. You don't like the numbers because the numbers put it so bluntly and they articulate so piercingly this belief that you have, and you don't like it when someone represents it that way. I can understand that. I don't like when people represent my beliefs in a real reductive way, but it's also not wrong. So much of evangelicalism is locked in this complementarian view in which men are slightly more than women. Women are slightly less than men. And I'm tired of them pretending like that's not true. They just don't like when it's called out. They don't like when it's described back to them. Drives me nuts. Stop telling me that you don't believe that women are less than men when I know what your theology is. You just don't like when it's put so bluntly. Well, guess what? You shouldn't like when it's put that bluntly because it is gross. It should sound jarring to you. It should. And you should pay attention to that. To go back to feelings. Yeah, that feels off, doesn't it? Well, then maybe you should get curious about that. And maybe you should do a little bit more investigation to realize, man, this idea that men are the head of the household and that they are like somehow above women, like that whole thing can be explored from a biblical perspective and be shown to have an entirely different outcome than what you think. Okay. Coming back in. So evangelical Christianity, by and large, anti-LGBTQ, by and large, view women as less than men. By and large, that's the crew who voted for and then supported Trump. By and large, that is the contingency of those who are wrapped up in this sort of Christian nationalism and white supremacy. Now, I'm not saying that all evangelicals are Christian nationalist white supremacists. What I'm saying is, if you were to put all the Christian nationalist white supremacists into a group together, guess what the highest percentage of their religious affiliation would be. That should matter. I should tell you something. So anyway, yes, please let everyone know that I am not that kind of Christian. I'm not. You're right. When you say I'm not a Christian, I know what you mean, and you are correct. You are correct. It's very much not me. All right. Karen says, word for word, exactly what I was taught in premarital counseling. Yeah, I thought of you the other day when someone was like, 51%, 49%, that's not real. Nobody believes that. Nobody believes that. I'm like, I feel like Karen told me there was a book once. We're like, that was almost a book title. I'm like, y'all, you just don't like when it's put so bluntly back into you don't like confronting it, which is completely understandable. We don't like confronting our shadows. We don't like confronting these nasty things that have sort of been latched onto our subconscious and our souls, and like tendrils are infecting our hearts. We don't like when we confront them. So that makes sense. But you should know, like, that's what your beliefs are. And I get how frustrating that sounds. So I got to maybe figure out a better way to say that. Oh, Brian, what's up, Brian Purcell? Love that you're here, man. Brian says, I appreciated my conversation with Sean McDowell. Only recently saw on YouTube. I like that you weren't able/willing to give straightforward answers to theological questions. Thank you, Brian. I don't know if you caught the earlier in the show, I talked a little bit about that, how I understand that for some people, like on the more evangelical side, they really have an expectation of a type of answers, a type of way of talking about things that in their mind is giving an answer, being clear. The number of times I've been told that I didn't answer a question, I'm like, no, I answered it. You just didn't like what I said. And you asked, you were expecting a math answer, and instead I gave you more like an English lit answer. And they're both answers. I get you're conditioned to see things as black and white, and then I come along and suggest there's a little bit of magenta going on here. And you're like, no, there are two options. There's a lot of magenta. All right. Where'd we go? Where'd I go? Checking back in with the comments here. Connie says, I don't call myself a Christian either. I call myself a follower of Jesus, which is a shame that those have to be distinguished from anymore. Oh, Junior's following up on the children of God thing. He says, I think it's not just me and you. It's you and the scripture disagree. Wait, Junior, Junior, we've talked about this. You don't just get to say that I disagree with scripture. Scripture is not this objective thing that exists that can be conveyed without any subjective interpretive experience. You don't get to do that. That's not a real thing. It's not a real thing. So it's you and me that disagree on how we see and understand the scriptures. So unless you've got some special access to God that you haven't yet told me about, some Joseph Smith goggles that lets you see like divine truth exactly as it is, and you've been holding out on everybody, then friend, you don't get to just say it's me that disagrees with the scriptures. We have to be more honest than that. It's you and me disagree on how we understand the scriptures. Don't go aligning yourself with some objective view of scripture. Can't believe you got me back on that trail. Darn you, Junior. Yes, and I do enjoy engaging with you as well. Just, okay. Where are we? Oh, Morgan Mercy, love the 51% rant. You're welcome. Yes, you're welcome. All right. Junior says, equating historical evangelical Christianity with being Trump supporters is problematic. You're looking at this from a very skewed Americanized lens. The rest of us don't care for U.S. politics. Yeah, that's why I was hoping to maybe distinguish between, I'm not saying that all evangelicals are this. I'm saying if you were to look at this massive group of Trump supporting Christian nationalists, white supremacy sympathizing, what you would find is there is one very, 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 very statistically dominant religious affiliation within that group. I hope that was clear. Man, You guys are on fire today with the comment section, and I love it. Junior comes back. That's an absolute statement you're making. You're making an absolute statement about Scripture and stating what it is not. I think you're trying to say that by me doing that, I'm violating one of my own convictions. Because I think the misconception is that I don't believe that there's absolute truth. And I've never said that. And in fact, I've said the opposite of that. So I'm trying to understand maybe what your point is, that I'm making an absolute statement. I guess I just want to say yes. I guess when it comes to the idea that the Scriptures are not just this objective, detached thing that doesn't require any interpretive, subjective understanding of it. Yeah. Is that an absolute statement? Maybe someone who's more of a philosophy major can help us understand if we're using the terms correctly there. But regardless, it's a statement I'm entirely comfortable making, and I believe is 100% true. That there isn't just, I mean, come on, we've been down this. How are you getting me back down this road again, Junior? But the Bible itself, as we have it now, is only, if you were to take an English version, is just derivative of Latin, which is derivative of Greek, which is derivative of, in some cases, Aramaic and Hebrew. Like, we are multiple layers removed from anything that could be considered objective. One. Two, we're hundreds and in some cases thousands of years removed from when the source was actually created, which means that it has gone through a multiple century long process of being edited and curated and redacted and brought together. Like it isn't this objective thing that just magically dropped from heaven that we can just be like, oh, all we have to do is just let it be it. No, we always must go through multiple layers of trying to wrestle with it and understand it. And the fact that we have, as Karen has pointed out on some of our other threads, the fact that we have tens of thousands of denominations shows just how not objectively obvious the Bible is. So anyway, I don't know how else to, like, I don't know why that is refuted. I don't know why you and or others can't just name that when we disagree, we're disagreeing about how to read and understand and approach the Bible. It's not me disagreeing with the Scriptures. The Scriptures is not a thing in that way. Okay. All right. I don't know where we are. Let me just finish up this article here because I'm after. It's 3:12, guys. This is like the longest perspective shift ever, but it's fun. Okay. Last one here is liar. All right. So this is the one where I figured out that I'm human and I have feels, and you guys can hurt me. To be clear, when you call me a liar, okay, that one actually hurts. The other names like heretic and false prophet and wolf in sheep's clothing and not a Christian, like I can honestly say, yeah, fine. I don't really disagree with you. And I can keto, jujitsu, like, yeah, here's how I take that and I throw it back at you. And it's like, fine. You know, it doesn't land in the way that you wish it would land. But when it comes to some other names, that people use, and I don't know that I'll ever comprehend why they use the names that they use, why they feel fine calling me these things. And again, these are people who call themselves Christians. Okay, these aren't non-Christian identifying folk that come onto my YouTube page and my Instagram, my Facebook, and send me emails. These aren't people who are like, I'm not a Christian, but you're freaking evil. Okay, these are just sit with that sentiment for a minute. These are people who say, I believe that Jesus is the Son of God. I believe that Jesus was God walking on the earth. I believe that he was perfect, and I believe in following him. And I will call you these awful names. Like, okay, anyway. So when they call me things like sociopath or evil, wicked or manipulative or sly or worker of Satan or phony or coward or fake. Try as I might, these sometimes they do land. These sometimes do hurt. It turns out I'm human after all, which is something that I don't think that people on the internet care to think about or take into consideration. The human, not just me, the humanity of anyone who's different from them. And I can be guilty of this too, BT dubs. Remembering that people are human. They're not just the collection of ideas and beliefs that they hold. They're not just some idea. They're not just some vague, abstract profile avatar out there that you can just sling insults at and not care how it lands. It hurts to be told that I'm a liar. It hurts to be told that I'm manipulating people for my own gain. It hurts to be told that I'm wicked and a coward. It hurts because I know that in my heart, I really am doing the best that I can. Now, might I be wrong? Yeah, like I said earlier, absolutely. Absolutely, I might be wrong. I say this over and over again, but am I lying? No. 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 And it makes me sad and it hurts. And sometimes it pisses me off that people accuse me of that. Like, seriously, you think I'm out here lying? You think I'm out here like deceiving and manipulating people? Go away. You're a love child of God and you suck. Okay. So anyway, being accused of some of these things, when I know that that's just not who I am or what I'm doing, that can wear a person down, and it does, and it can hurt. And I think that hurting other people should be something that matters to you. I wish it mattered to you more. Conservative evangelical Christian, I wish it mattered to you more that you hurt people. I don't really know why it doesn't matter, at least not matter enough for you to do anything about. I understand the psychology behind it. I do. I understand the process of infrahumanization, which when we deny people certain characteristics that dehumanizes them, and then we treat them as in a way that we treat them as though they're not human, but because we've dehumanized them, it doesn't affect our conscience. And so we actually can still think we're good people while treating other people like crap. Like, I get the psychology of it, but that's not an excuse. Like, you still are claiming to be a part of this religion that is fundamentally built upon love. Fundamentally built upon love. Depart from me, you who want to keep saying, "And holy, wrathful justice, God." Depart from me. That is not what this religion was built upon. It's not the religion that Jesus built, if you could argue he built a religion at all. You know what I mean? It was built upon love your enemies as yourself. Bless those who curse you. What's the most important thing in the world? To love God with your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second is pretty much the same thing. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. Love. How many times must I forgive a person who's offended me? Like 70 times 7, like forever, always forgiveness, always grace, always. Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy and not sacrifice. This whole thing's built upon love. And you come at me with these names, or you come at my friends with these names, or you come at other people who just believe differently than you and are doing the best they can, and you hurl these names at them. Stop. You're an embarrassment to this religion. I'm not. Me and my hereticness and my false prophetness and my wolf in sheep clothing, I'm not an embarrassment to Jesus. I know that. Like, deep in my bones, I know that. But you, in the way that you conduct yourself, in the way that you treat people, in the way that you talk about people who disagree with you, for shame. For shame. Stop. All right. I know I'm preaching to the choir here pretty much. Like, I don't think the evangelicals are going to watch this video and hang in there for an hour to hear that little impassioned plea at the end, but it happened anyway. Okay. This has been really delightful. You've had some wonderful, wonderful comments and questions, and I'll go back through and read them all when I'm done here, because I wasn't able to keep up with everybody. This has been really good. I'm really grateful that you showed up here today. I agree with Mercy, who says that you all are loved children of God. And you suck. Wait, that was me. That's right. That's what you're quoting me back at me. You're a loved child of God and you suck. Your 12-year-old's designing the t-shirt now. I might actually wear that t-shirt. Thanks, Colton. You're a good energy to have here, man. Mike K. And you suck. Almost spit out my dinner. All right. This has been super delightful and encouraging. And thanks for letting me share about what this experience has been like for me to reflect on some of these names. I hope that in some way it's been helpful for you. If you have also found yourself at the receiving end of some of these names, I intended to maybe talk more about sort of how to handle this and how to approach it. Maybe I'll do that next week. Today, I think I just kind of got caught up in the moment of sharing them publicly like this and responding to some of your wonderful comments and questions. So anyway, thank you for being here, Alex. Thank you, Acid Rain. Glad you're here. Thank you, Brooke. Susan, thank you for the kind words. I love you all. Have good weeks. Oh yeah, come back tonight. Normally I have like a little promo graphic of what's coming tonight on the Kate and Colby show. I didn't make it for this week, but Paula Stone Williams is a dear friend of Kate and mine's, and she's got a new memoir coming out here in a couple weeks called As a Woman, and it tells her story of being a man in the evangelical, like a prominent figure in the evangelical world, preaching at some of the largest churches, running a huge organization as Paul for most of her life. And then when she transitioned into Paula, then all of that evaporated, and she has learned all of this valuable insight into what life is like as a man and as a woman. And so anyway, Kate and I adore her. She's been a guest speaker at our church before. And so we're going to talk to her tonight at 7 p.m. on the Kate and Colby show. That's on YouTube and on Facebook. So we're pretty easy to find. You're all invited to come join in that and meet Dr. Paula Stone Williams tonight at 7 p.m. And then I will see Angelo. Still can't get over foppish. I know it is a great fun word though. And like I say, yeah, you're right. You're right, Ben Mordecai, who called me foppish. I do sometimes give more consideration to how I look and how I dress than I should. So here's what we'll do to go out. I will intentionally defop myself and share with you this. Okay. So this is how I'm going to end, with a very beautiful hairstyle for tonight, for this afternoon. Love you. Have a good week, and we'll see you next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Sound good? All right. Thanks for watching this week's episode of Perspective Shift. I'm going to now invite you to do one of three things, or do them all if you're an overachiever. First, why don't you go ahead and subscribe to my free Perspective Shift newsletter. You can do that by going to colbymartin.substack.com. This will ensure that each week the articles that I write arrive safely in your inbox. Second, if you're watching this on YouTube, just go ahead and hit subscribe on my channel. That'd be awesome. And or if you're watching this on Facebook, would you click like on my page? For me, this is a win-win, in that it helps me know that you're out there and that you care. Plus, it helps you know when I'm going live. For all my other work, including books that I've written or sermons that I've preached, head on over to colbymartinonline.com. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll join me live next week.